Hey guys, welcome back to Bowtech Live Target Tuesday edition. Today we have a special treat. Normally we have this guy coming in via FaceTime, but fortunately he was at the Reading Trail Shoot this past weekend and he made a stop up on his way home and looked at some cool stuff and been looking at some bows. So welcome, Tim Gillingham.
Yep.
How
Nice,
you
Todd.
doing?
Great.
Good. Well, we just got back, both of us actually just got back from Reading, a pretty cool tournament here on the West Coast, and let's talk about it real quick. So while we're doing this, guys, make sure you get your questions in because this is a good opportunity to have Tim in studio. I'm watching here on Facebook, and I'm also watching on Instagram. So we have you here right in front of us. Let me double check. I want to make sure we're running here. Oh, come on. She's not cooperating, guys, like always. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. Get your questions in because we will be... Sorry, guys, we're going to switch accounts here real quick. Maybe not. Okay, we'll get back to that. So it looks like we're able to monitor Facebook. So if you're on Instagram, I apologize there. We'll keep, maybe Jasmine, can you monitor Instagram and hip chat them to me or Skype them to me? If you're able to, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, go ahead and get them in on Instagram. She'll shoot them over to me. A little technical difficulty. I don't have another account loaded on here, but get your questions in. We'll take them. Hopefully, answer as many as we can here today.
Sure.
But we just got back from Reading Trail Shoot, which is the NFA Marked 3D Championship, and some of you may know, most of you may know, some of you may not. So Reading actually was dealt kind of a bad deal. The club was dealt a bad deal this past year. There was a car fire that went through there. Basically was started by a car and pretty much burnt the whole place to the ground.
A car fire started it, huh?
Yep. So I guess they had a blowout. I think that's what they called it, was the car fire. Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think a car had a blowout through sparks and it just went at that point.
Well, you drive out here in the summer, you wonder why the whole thing doesn't burn up all the time. Everything's so dry, so.
Normally that's it's pretty thick cover and pretty much there was nothing there.
Yeah, it looked like Iwo Jima.
Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, shout out, kudos to the club there, Straight Arrow Bow Hunters. They did a really good job getting this tournament back up and running.
Yeah, they up and running. They changed the course up a little bit, and I think for the better.
Yeah, I think we pretty much all had written the tournament off. We're like, oh, it's not going to happen, but they had a lot of people pitched in, and
they've got a great club there, you know, with a lot of support. So, you know, yeah, they did a wonderful job putting it together, and I think it's a tournament that everybody kind of looks forward to going to every year.
Right.
You know, I was kind of at the end of a pretty long grind, so, you know, I don't know. I shot okay. I made a couple mistakes the first day, but you know, a lot of good shooting this record-setting scores this weekend. The women shot as high as they've ever shot, I think.
Right, I think there's a couple records set, and two records set. One by our own Paige Pierce, and then first woman, I think, 15:30. Yeah. And then Linda in Paige ended up 32, and Linda with a 33. So two records set, which is great on that course.
Well, the conditions were perfect. I mean, you never seen it any better. From a wind standpoint, we really didn't have anything to deal with. So that's a recipe for top scores. You know, 2 down in the men's pro division. Right. You know, lots of guys, but they had 4 guys, I think, at 3 down.
Right.
So that's, you know, it's a tough competition when you've got perfect conditions. So.
Well, let's talk about the competition itself because there's a lot of people that don't necessarily go to this tournament. I mean, we have a lot of people there. It's about the furthest west, I think, of any tournament. So walk everybody through kind of how this tournament is set up and kind of what we do from, you know, how it's laid out, how many we shoot per day.
Yeah. Well, this is basically, and for all intents and purposes, a field shoot on animal targets. So they basically use NFA-sized dots, but they're in, you know, attractive, you know, animal targets. It's laid out from, you know, 3 yards out to 120.
And that 3 yard was a new one this year.
Yeah, and I kept asking questions because I shot Fresno before, and they got a little 2 yard surprise over there that gets people pretty good. And I had a feeling that's what they were pulling.
Right.
So, you know, if you really don't know your inside your sight parallax marks really well, you know, at 2 and 3 yards, it can really, you know, eat your lunch. I mean, a lot of guys missed that 3 yard shot.
They did, and we were shooting, it was about the size of a dime, I think.
Yeah, a little smaller than that.
It was small.
Yeah, it was
I know
pretty
my gold tip pierces look very big compared to the size of those dots.
Yeah.
But,
It's all preparation. You got to learn your bow inside and out, forward and backwards. I mean, personally, my marks got off a little bit. That's probably one of the hardest things to do in this tournament is to get here and keep your bow 100%, your marks 100%.
Right.
And I probably spent all day Wednesday working on everybody else's stuff.
That's true. That's how you roll too.
And,
You always,
it is what it is. A couple of the people I helped out did really well. We had a lot of guys over here from overseas for their first time, and they did exceptionally well. So,
and I think, and with that tournament, so you were saying we shoot from 3 to 101. So Bigfoot's 101 yards, and we 25 targets per day. The last day is 20 targets, 2 arrows per target. That's a lot of arrows.
Yeah, you're anywhere on the course anywhere from 6 to 8 hours.
Right.
We were 8 hours the first day. It was brutal.
Right.
So,
Yep.
it's hard to flow that many people through a single course like this. So if you get choke points and you get a target where only 4 people can stand at the stake at a time, then you tend to get a choke point, and it just slows everything up. Just like traffic in LA, I guess.
And it's normally there's a little bit of shade there, but with everything burned up, we were in the 80-degree sun pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think overall you did really well. I think you had just a little bow failure. You just had a momentary equipment lapse.
Me?
Oh, I think overall you did really well.
I did actually. I mean, I dropped 11 other than the 2 zeros I shot. I bumped my trigger once on the draw and once on the letdown, and I don't know why per se.
I think the word is one of those arrows is still in orbit.
Possibly, yeah. But I mean, look at it. I got a great farmer's tan.
Yeah, sweet. That was great. I think pretty much all of us have matching sunburn farmer's tans there. So.
So, you can't win them all. You always want to go there and shoot your best, your 100%. But, I mean, I'm having a good year. It's just, at some point you can only do so much.
Right.
It's difficult to get everything perfect. And you're dealing with 3D yardages where you need 3 sight tape marks or 4. It's not as big a deal. When you're dealing with Reading where you got to have 20 to 100 right in the actual air density that you're in.
Right.
Because you can sight your bow in where I live at home and it won't be on here.
Yep. I was a victim of that myself. Yep.
So you have to have a method to get good sight tapes, and I ran out of time, and I trusted it. I have some issues with one particular sight tape generator, and I didn't have perfect sight tapes.
Right.
I mean, it was adequate. I mean, we shot off for the teams, and I stuck the elk dead center, but.
Which is 88 yards. So for those of you that don't know, that's
I didn't miss that elk all weekend. 2 years in a row now. So I mean, that used to be my nemesis. Now Bigfoot's my nemesis.
Everybody thinks elk are huge, but you look at that at 88 yards from where we shoot, it's out there. It looks like it's definitely out there.
If you're shooting at Bowtech, it's a
That's
slam
true.
dunk.
It's nice and flat. It's just like a laser beam there.
88 yards. If I see that in my rangefinder, that's a dead elk.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's talk about, kind of backing up from Reading a little bit. ASA, you have been on point with your ASA game as well.
Yeah.
Came off of another podium in Paris, right?
I don't really care to go back to unknown yardage. I kind of want to see the sport move on past that. But, it's fun in a way. It just takes a lot more effort, a lot more time practicing, judging yardage. It's tough for people that don't have the targets. I do have the targets in every place to practice. So yeah, my shooting's been done well. I mean, I've led both the 2 shoots I shot in senior pro. They moved us indoors for the shoot off, and man, I made a couple really bad yardage errors. I would have probably won that one pretty easily, but ended up second to Tony. Kudos to him. I mean, I shot a 14 on the final target to get back into it, and he matched me and took the win.
Yeah.
So you can't fault a guy for that.
Sure.
It's you got beat by the better guy.
Put it all out there. I mean, you can't do any better than that.
Yeah, especially shooting 2 5s in the shoot off.
But you were there. I mean, you had a good lead. That was great. It was fun to watch as well. But it seems like you've really, what was your? I think we talked about this a little bit in our last interview too. But people are like, oh man, Gillingham's going to senior pro, and I always kind of put you on the spot at that point. But kind of what was your way, your train of thought? I know you've competed those guys your whole life there. And
every morning I wake up and I realize I have earned the right to be a senior
especially
pro.
with your back today. I know you said his back's pretty messed up, and
yeah, I hurt myself a couple weeks ago shooting. It just something popped in my back, and I pretty much been hurt for the last week and a half. So I don't know. there's lots of aches and pains, you know,
Yep.
you got to deal with. So just try to grind it out, and it's a lot of work to get ready for all these different venues. You know, we got OPA coming up, we got Field Nationals coming up, and you know, you take this setup you shot here at Reading, and you're going to say, yeah, I didn't really like something here. Maybe I'm running a little bit too much poundage. I'm going to have to back off a little bit because I just can't handle it in that kind of repetition. So, but over the years, I have learned how to get from A to Z a lot faster. And I just got to stay healthy, and you know, probably need to get some, you know, go to the doctor and get some pictures of my shoulders and stuff, and just see what I'm dealing with, and see if there's something I can do preventative to, you know, to stay in the game longer. Because I mean, most guys get older and they end up having to have, you know, shoulder surgery, and I really don't like getting cut on. So.
No, I don't think anybody does. I think they have issues if they do.
Yeah. So if I can do anything that's, you know, preventive,
Yep.
you know, to help me out, you know, I think I'm going to do that. So
Nice.
Senior pros, you know, it's a tough crowd still. I think last year they shot 6 or 7 down at Reading in senior pro. I mean, there's some tough crew there, you know.
Right.
This young crowd coming up, they don't have to learn all, you know, the way that we did. It's all kind of laid out there. They don't have to learn how to level sights anymore, although pretty much everybody's sight eye check is off. So you may want to revisit that a little bit. But
I don't know how you were able to really keep track of your stuff, because like you just said, I mean, every time I go back to the booth area, the vending area after we're done shooting, you were just absolutely mobbed with tech questions. I just don't know how you keep your game up to par while dealing with everybody else's game.
Well, you know, and the older you get, sometimes you just want to go watch TV.
Yeah.
You know? But you know, it's a hard grind to keep up with. You know, it's this next 2 months, I think I have a little bit more time off, so it's an every other weekend scenario for tournaments. So it will give me a little bit of time to, you know, not grind so hard. The travel is what's so hard, and the stress of, you know, getting behind at work and trying to keep up in that side of things. And
yeah, I don't think a lot of, you know, some people may realize that, some people may not know. I mean, you coordinate the staff for Gold Tip and Bee Stinger, so you have to deal with that on top of your shooting. You have a regular 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, the first 3 months of the year are really brutal. I mean, till about now it starts to slack off, you know, a little bit, you know. But it's still, you know, the volume of staff that we run and the amount of people that we have, you know, on our team, you know, it's a full-time job. But that's part of the value. Every tournament I go to, I'm introduced to new people. You know, I got to spend some time with a couple of my shooters from Italy.
Right.
And I helped one of them. You know, I helped Irene with her equipment, and you know, she's pretty sharp already. They're pretty good field shooters over there. But you know, to see them, you know, make a podium, that feels good, you know. And you see some of one of the other guys I helped, he was first time here, and he's a young kid, and you know, he's 20 years old, and I mean, second day he's sitting in second place, and it's like, so it feels good to help him and teach him and see him, you know, moving.
Like a proud papa moment, right?
To a certain degree,
To a certain degree, not.
You still want to beat them down and hold them where they're supposed to be.
Especially when they're in your class. We have some good questions coming in, guys. Get your questions, and we have Tim here in the studio. So here's a really good question. I'll let you answer this from your perspective, because I think you and I have a lot of the same thoughts as far as shooting staff. But Alan Crisp is asking, how do you guys sponsor people? And I think, you know, answer that from a Gold Tip Bee Stinger perspective, because you and I have worked together a lot, and I think we have kind of the same philosophy.
Well, you know, when we talk in terms of sponsorship, you know, sponsorship is about creating value around yourself. You know, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, do people take my advice? Okay, do I have a sphere of influence where people are taking my advice? You know, do I have a value to this manufacturer? Am I able to sell product to, you know, do people respect me enough? Have I earned the right to shoot their bow or their equipment, and can I turn the needle for them?
Right.
You know, I never even approach a sponsor until, number one, I want to shoot their product, and number two, do I think I can help them?
Right.
Because I work in the industry and I understand, you know, that we have to get a return on investment, okay? And everybody has a sphere of influence, you know, and we have introductory programs. You know, the first place I would tell people to start is at your dealer level.
I agree, 100%.
Okay? Because if you're not able to help your local dealer, you know, that's the first place I got sponsored, and it's the first place, you know, I think people need to look to get sponsored, because if you'll spend your time in the shop and you learn the ropes around an archery shop, and you show that that shop owner that you're actually helping them and willing to help them for for a deal on equipment or a range time and things like that.
Right.
He's going to be a lot more likely to want to help you out too. So,
But those recommendations, that's the same thing. That's where I look. The first step is the dealer. That's one of the questions we ask even on application. Who's your local dealer you're affiliated with?
yeah.
And then we poll our territory managers. We take a look because each of those guys have their own kind of territory staff, and we ping them because they know who's of value in their area, and that's who I'm going to try to pull from first.
Yeah, and I look at, when I look at a resume, I look at, a guy's, the way a guy shoots at a national level has a little bit to do with how he's perceived at home. The value of the actual podium at the national level probably, outside the pro divisions isn't really big. There is some social media marketing value there, but how that person that won a semi-pro division or a Open A and ASA, how, if they're a winner at that level, back home they're probably one of the movers and shakers in their local community. So, that's usually a guy that I think is going to be much better perceived. If a guy's a finger shooter, not anything against finger shooters, but they tend to. I want guys that want the competition, that have the respect, that they're shooting the top classes, that they're pushing themselves the hardest, and are passionate about what they do. So,
looks like my Skype is even acting up here. So, we will move on to the next question on Facebook. So, here's a good one right here. I kind of went by. Here's a Frankenbow question, Tim. I know you do not like Frankenbows. I think you're a big fan of Frankenbows. But Leo John Squires, he just built a Frankenbow. So it looks like a Fanatic 2.0 riser and cams, 70-pound Prodigy limbs and flex guard. Brace height is now 5.5 inches. Can't believe how well it's shooting. Thoughts, Tim?
Well,
that's definitely a Frankenbow.
It would probably hit me in the palm.
Yeah? I think, you probably do.
Yeah, I don't know if it shoot it. It's a mechanical device that repeat itself.
Right.
So
again, that's kind of a personal feel thing, realistically, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 5.5 probably be a little bit critical, I would think, but some of that depends on your draw length and your own shooter ability. So sounds fast.
Let's see. Brian Murphy, Tim, what is your daily practice regimen?
Well, I don't know that I actually really am able to get one, really. I'm not home enough to have one, so I tend to work with what I have. Like when I go home this next week, I'm home 5 days, I will try to, work on bows, usually at night. Probably work on my air rifle a little bit too, but and I'll judge yardage every day. It's very critical that I judge yardage and work on my ASA setup. That's the next tournament I'm going to. So I've got 6 or 7 days home, and I'm going to judge every single day. And I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to work on the problem targets. The javelina is what killed me at the last tournament in the shoot-off, and me and that target are going to have a reckoning. So, I'll typically go out and I'll shoot 20 targets for score. I'll shoot an arrow known, and I'll shoot an arrow unknown and an arrow known. And that tells me 2 things. It tells me how good is my judging. It also tells me, do I need to work on my shooting? Am I having a problem? If I'm aiming hard up in the center of the 12, how many 8s am I getting? Should I be adding a half yard to it? Should I be subtracting? What are my tendencies when I shoot for the high 12, the low 12? And so you need to, the more you're familiar with your what you do on a specific target, the more you can decide, hey, I'm going to shoot the high 12 or the low 12. I'm going to add a yard or subtract a yard. But I'm also going to start running a lot of targets through my brain, just judging. If I just walk out without a bow, I can judge an awful lot of targets very quickly. And if I just put a number to it, and I always write it down, because if you write it down, you're going to remember it. Your brain will track it a little bit better, and you'll get more data. And I want data. Okay, I want to be able to look back through this book and say, wow, I judged a javelina 16 times, and between this yardage and this yardage, I overjudged it, and this yardage, hey, I'm starting to get it.
Okay.
Right. So the more things that more data points that I can actually draw from, the better chance I have of making a good decision in a tournament. In the meantime, I'm going to really be getting my equipment ready and making my decision as to what I'm going to run for OPA, because that's probably one of my favorite tournaments of the year. And I'm just diseased with the fact that I have to tweak my bows absolutely 100% for the particular individual event. Some guys will just go with, hey, the same event, same bow that I'm going to run.
And that's kind of what came to my mind. Your everyday guy, your everyday shooter is just going to shoot what they brought, basically, or shoot what they shoot every day.
Yeah, and I think guys just don't want to spend the time and effort. But I know these tournaments are just won and lost on edges, hairs. You figure there was, one guy was 2 down this weekend, and 3 guys were 3 down, I think, and how many guys were 4 down? I mean, it was just, this much is the difference. So, in OPA, you're looking at, dealing with the wind. You're looking at, sounds like they're going to have more 14 range targets this year. So there's a benefit to maybe running. Last year I ran 2 arrows off of the same bow, which is probably what I'll end up doing again, just because I won't be able to handle it.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. But I just tried to organize my time where my 3D shooting is done during the daylight, and if I need to, I have a lighted range where I can flip the lights on at night and work on my form, work on my sight marks and stuff like that, But I'm going to make sure, that I get a couple field bowls built up with, super good sight marks and tapes printed up, so that I don't run into a scenario, like I did this last week where, I'm in the tournament having to adjust because how many points did I lose, just because I had to find out that my middle sight marks were off due to the fact that the sight mark program was printing them wrong. So, that's, there's ways around it. There's ways of tweaking those programs to work, but you gotta do the legwork, and it takes some time.
Right.
And it's harder the older I get, the more I fatigue, I think, and I'm not able to do those 8 or 9 hour shooting sessions.
Right, I bet. So this is from Brian Wenzel, who's on Team Bowtech as well. So, Tim, I know you're a fan of 4 Fletch arrows. Can you talk to the advantages of 3 versus 4? And part 2, do they fly well off a prong style target rest, or is there a Fletch contact issue? So part 1,
let's
3
go.
versus 4.
I almost always answer questions backwards to front.
Sure. Okay, that works.
Yes, there's always a contact issue off of a blade. If you're running a bullet hole tune off of a blade, I would challenge you to take an arrow, take spray foot powder the entire arrow, set it on at full draw, have somebody click it on at full draw, shoot it into a hard target, and then look at what the scratch marks on the shafts indicate.
Right.
They're going to tell you everything. And you're going to see that there's no way possible to run a bullet hole tune off of a blade and have clearance.
Right.
Even if you do have marginal clearance and you rotate it out, the instant you make a mistake, you're going to have a fletching clearance issue. So I'm a huge proponent of the Hamsky drop away, and I've kind of just worked my way into that that rest profile over years and years of tweaking stuff. And I think one reason people don't shoot dropaways is fundamentally they just don't trust them. Now the drop away, on the other hand, allows me to do a lot of things. It allows me to shoot 4 Fletch, which I think is a tremendous difference. In a target arrow scenario, small diameter arrows, probably not a big deal, but when I'm looking at triple X's, 30X's, and broadheads, the difference is tremendous.
I bet.
It's tremendous, and the testing I did initially was so compelling from 3 Fletch to 4 Fletch that I just can't ignore it. And so I adopted across the spectrum on all my setups, and I just changed the size of the fletching based on how much I want to limit the drag effect downrange. Okay. One of the biggest things I see people doing is shooting too small of fletchings. Too small of fletchings are not forgiving. Okay. And that's based 100% on the diameter of the arrow and how much steering ability it actually has. So you got to do some experimenting. Every time I've tried to take my ASA XXX setup down to a 3 Fletch pattern, I have paid for it dearly in forgiveness. And you're never going to know that if you don't ever fletch a 4 Fletch pattern up, get perfect clearance, and go out and test it against it. The difference is subtle. Your good shots will always hit the middle, but where do my so-so shots hit? How far out do they hit? That is what the difference in 4 Fletch and 3 Fletch does. And you're starting to see a lot more 4 Fletch now. It's taken a lot of years for this, for me preaching this stuff to kind of take hold.
I think there was, in my group in Reading, there was think there were 3/4 of the shooters had 4 fletch in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to take hold. I mean, I heard Chance Bobeff last week talk to a guy about he was shooting them on his X10s, and the guy asked him, "Do you really think it's better?" He says, "Absolutely." You know, so it just takes more people endorsing. I mean, some people look at me like the mad scientist sometimes, and you know, I don't think they give me 100%, you know, street cred because of it. But eventually, you know, I tend to get a pretty good following for some of my ideas. So.
Well, here's a good question. I'm glad somebody asked this. So let's talk about the new Reckoning. So Jamie Steele Sweeney, is the Reckoning a good crossover option for target and hunting? So let's talk about the Reckoning specifically. Let's talk a little bit about the deadlock cam system on there.
Sure.
So let's hit her question, or hit her question right away. Is the Reckoning a good crossover? Looks like target hunting platform.
Absolutely, and it depends on your draw length, of course. I would say, 35-inch axle-to-axle bow. I mean, it's a very, very stable system. I would say a guy could probably get away if you have a 29-inch draw length and under for target. It would be a pretty good target bow. Probably 28 and under is a really, really super good target bow. I mean, and then for hunting, I mean, you could take it all the way up to the max draw length real easy.
Yep.
Of 31 inches. I'm trying to figure out a way to tweak it to fit my draw
Yeah,
length.
but we were playing around with it a little earlier. It just quite doesn't fit.
Yeah,
By a few
we might
inches,
MacGyver something, so. But you know what was kind of cool, Todd, is we got a chance yesterday to go out in the factory and look at this new cam, this new deadlock cam system. And my first perception of this thing was that it was fairly complicated. It has got to have a lot of internal parts and springs and little stuff like that.
I heard a lot of people, even in Reading, that weren't really open-minded to the system, and I heard that a lot. Too many moving parts, but I didn't really look at it.
It's 3 freaking parts.
Right. Yep.
I was shocked. I'm sitting there watching these guys putting this together, and minus the two little
mounts for the
mounts there. I mean, it's 3 parts.
Correct.
It's a beefy axle, it's a brass ball, and a set screw in. And I was amazed by that. I mean, it's awesome. It's a very, very simplistic cam system, and really allows for just simplistic tuning. And I think it's going to be a big hit for Bowtech.
And realistically, if you look at it coming from even up against hybrids out there, or any other binary cam systems, a lot of times in those cases it has less moving parts than those. Especially you don't have concentric wheels on the side with extra cables and extra bearings, and we talked about the axle itself. It is one beefy axle.
Oh, it's very beefy. You're not going to get any flex on your limb tips there. I think people sometimes are a little bit intimidated by these brackets on the end of the limbs.
Right.
But this system is pretty flawless, and from everything I've seen in it, and it goes right back to the whole refuse to follow mantra. Bowtech is always seems like on the cutting edge. You've always got new, innovative stuff out there, and it's just this is just another example of that. So,
well, let's talk about the actual benefit, because you get a lot of people that say, "Well, I can tune my bow, I can move the rest." What's the advantage of being able to fine tune your string position versus just moving your rest for accuracy?
Well, some bows will tune what, and some bows won't, and some bows have a wider range of tunability to the shooter than others. The binary overdrive cam system that we've had for years has a very wide range of tunability to the shooter. Now, what I personally find is large diameter arrows, and stiff arrows always get blamed, but it's really large diameter arrows, do not react much to rest movement. Okay, smaller arrows like Pierce Platinums or Pierce Tours, those react very sensitively to everything.
Right.
Rest movement, twisting the yokes. This system works very similar to like Matthews. The Matthews bows, you have to change the top hats. The problem with that is it's a very crude system.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go from a tear like this to a tear like this, but what if you want to get the last little bit of it out?
And you've got to put it in a press and change all that out, tear it apart. It's time consuming.
Yeah, and it's kind of frustrating to me because, and I hear this a lot out of Europe, guys are still in the mode of tuning the arrow to the bow, okay? Tuning is about driving the power stroke of the string down the center of the arrow, okay?
Right.
And by us manipulating the cam, we're manipulating the alignment of the string with the arrow. And that's what makes it such a a wide range of tunability and ease of tunability. It's a micro-adjustable tuning system. If you got 1/8 of an inch of a tear, left or right, we can take it out with just a minute amount of movement of that cam left or right.
In seconds. I mean, you can do it right when you're shooting.
It was funny. I was helping a guy last week in Texas tune his Matthews bow, and we moved one of the top hats, and I was just shocked by how far it moved the tear.
Really?
And this is with a big fat arrow like a triple X. It moved it a mile.
Right.
So on a little bitty arrow like a Pierce, I would guess it would be a little bit hard to get that exact perfect tune like I like. I mean,
In the first pass, I mean,
Yeah.
you're kind of taking a gamble. You change out your top hat. Oh crap! It's not what I needed.
And you got to have a bow
one.
press. I mean, I could tune this. The beauty of this too is we can tune it without a bow press. You loosen the set screw and you turn the cam. I mean, it's like that.
Dealers love it. I know dealers
I
are
can
starting to get
imagine.
these in the shop, and it's like, this is great. You know, from a consumer standpoint, you know, I personally like less time in the shop and more time out shooting. So this is, get your bow, your dealer sets it up, you're out the door.
And this is just one aspect of the Reckoning. You know, the Reckoning still has the, just an amazing limb pocket. You know, if you guys are out there looking and your friends are looking at buying bows, you really got to look first at the fundamentals of a bow. The limb pocket is the meat and potatoes. The limb pocket is what's going to, make this bow repeat itself. This thing locks to the riser, the limbs lock to the pocket. Most important feature on a bow. Now this has a very wide limb base,
Right.
and it's very, very difficult to torque even with a higher let off.
Right.
So, I haven't played with it much myself just because it doesn't come
fit right.
in my draw length. But just a little bit I shot it, it's very shock free. It just feels super stable in your hand. Like it's very difficult to torque left or right.
Right.
And so it's going to make a very, very shootable bow. And after talking to the engineers a little bit, by them eliminating the yokes here, we're getting a lot less left to right cam movement from static to full draw. So it should make for a very, very, very forgiving bow. And you don't have the, the thin yokes going out to the end of the cam or the limb tips anymore, which I don't think that's a big deal. I still tell people the Realm X and the Realm series bows are some of the very best hunting bows I've ever seen in my entire 35-year career.
And right now, even we came out the Realm SS and the SR6, and the SR6, both bows are great, and especially for that person that wants the super smooth in the SS or the speed in the SR6. And surprisingly, that SR6 has been selling lights out just because of the draw cycle and the speed they get out of it.
It's a smooth bow, but it's a fast bow, and speed sells. But the whole Realm series is just it's the same bow. It's just a different flavor. Do you like fast? Do you like smooth? Do you like a happy medium? Do you like a little longer axle to axle? And that's just, that's a good way to present that line. And it's really a hard bow to beat. When I back these limb bolts off, I can lock the pocket back down to the riser, so I have no shifting in my pocket.
Right.
That's extremely important. There's a lot of bows on the market that you just back the limb bolts off, and you got a lot of play. If you were to take the strings and cables off, you'd have a ton of play in that pocket.
Right.
And that's not conducive to accuracy.
Right. Here's a good question. So I'll answer this one. It's actually about colors. Patrick McKee is asking, can you get the other bows in the Reckoning colors? My wife loves hyper green, but 35-inch ATA might be too long for her. Unfortunately not. That hyper green is exclusive to the Target line, just on the Reckoning itself. So unfortunately not. But we do have some other colors. Some of the monotone colors. We have really cool stone or smoke gray up there that I think in Reading was the most popular color, really. The green was too as well. But
yeah, and I don't think 35 inches is too long
No.
For your wife. I mean, what you see is out west, you see the longer axle bows selling a lot better to bow hunters. I mean, if you're talking target archery at all, it's definitely not too long. But the guys tend to shoot and want a longer axle, more deflexed handle out west, and that's because they're shooting longer distances, and we want more accurate bows. And it's just more conducive to accuracy to shoot, something a little longer like the Realm X or the Reckoning.
Right. Here's a good question. Somebody wants to get inside your head again, Tim. John
Do they really?
Schechtman, sorry if I butchered that, John. What's going through your head when you reach full draw? Are you going through fundamentals, or are you telling yourself motivational phrases, or what?
Well, I'm trying to, I set up on the shot first mentally, I want to visualize the shot that I want to make, okay? And if guys are dealing with target panic, stuff like that, that's a very good way for you to replace those negative images and those negative expectations. So I'm trying to put a positive thought into my head. This is what I want my pin to do, okay? This is the result that I want to happen. When I'm coming to full draw, I'm thinking about elongating my forearm. I'm thinking about getting my forearm in behind the shot.
Right.
I'm thinking about how I'm wrapping my hand on the release. And then I'm simply focusing on the shot, on the target, and thinking, you know, kind of running a mantra through my head of smaller, 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 smaller. And then the subconscious fires a shot in a perfect scenario. You know, on any given shot, there can be a number of things running around in my head, but, you know, that's optimal.
Maybe the last couple of shots might be running around inside there a little bit.
Yeah, usually if you see me do one of these, it's because there's lots of stuff running around up there, so.
So here, Bart's got a question. It kind of goes back to the deadlock versus overdrive binary. Bart Shortle, does Reckoning or Deadlock have more tunability than the overdrive binary? I think it's kind of a yes and no question, I think, in there.
Well,
so.
I mean, with talking to the engineers a little bit about this, Bo, you know, because you don't have yokes out on the limb tips, you know, they have to, you know, get the deflections just right on the limb tips in order to help create a wider range of tunability. But, you know, from what I've seen, Bart, there's a very wide range of tunability on this particular bow.
And I think it's just the ease of tunability.
And I think what you're going to see, especially with an average guy coming into a bow shop, that this bow is going to be a lot harder for them to actually hold wrong.
Right.
Because it's so stable left and right, and that wide limb base really makes it a lot harder to torque than, say, you know, a Rain 7 was. You know.
No, that's a good point. It's very good
that
point.
wide limb base and that, you know, it really, you know, makes things very, very stable.
Let's see. I thought there was one question in here.
So I think tunability-wise, they're probably fairly similar. You know, it's just tuning it a different way.
Looks like that was the last one. So I think we hit on it a little bit earlier. So what's on your schedule next? Where are you headed to next?
Well, we're going to Augusta, Georgia for the ASA tournament in 2 weeks. I'm going home. Today's my daughter's birthday. So
happy birthday.
If she's watching, happy birthday, Valentina.
Better get home. I'm probably going to get in the doghouse for making you come out here on her birthday.
Pretty much, but, you know. But my daughter's 18. We're proud of her. She graduates, I think the Monday or Tuesday after Augusta. I think Monday after Augusta. So I got to make sure I get home for that.
Yeah, you do.
My wife's mother's coming up, so we'll have a good old time. So, you know, then it's, I believe it's IBO after that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Quick.
I mean,
May.
I'll have to go look at the schedule.
It's that time of year. It's IBO time of year, May, June, kind of rolling into there.
Yep. The first IBO is actually the weekend of Augusta. They're kind of a little bit of a conflicting schedule this year, so.
Are you doing any more international shoots, heading overseas at all?
No more international this year. They canceled the Pro Series, so I was planning on doing 2 of those. But, you know, I should draw a mountain goat tag this year, so maybe we'll replace Wales with a mountain goat.
There you go. That might be kind of fun. I think I could probably get behind shooting, moving things more than paper a little bit.
It's all fun.
Here's a good question I want to hit on as we end here a little bit. Joshua Dante, the Realm X has brought me back to Bowtech. Great to hear, great bow. I just shot my best ever in Paris, Texas. I'm just wondering if the Reckoning is going to be any more help being longer axle to axle. I have not been able to shoot one yet. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I know another couple inches of axle to axle, you know, versus say a Realm X, which I'm assuming he's talking about, right? Yeah.
Yep.
From a day in, day out, trying to hit the center of the X accuracy standpoint, yeah, I think that couple inches axle to axle and just the geometry of it should help a little bit, yes. You know, I don't know.
And the Realm X has been great on the tour. I know a ton of people have been shooting it and doing it well.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's, you know, I think longer axle to axle is just usually inherently a little more stable. just because of the string angle, and then it's almost like a tightrope walker.
Yeah, what happens with longer axle-to-axle bows, they tend to be less sensitive to your hand placement. So if you're shooting a short axle-to-axle bow, one of the things that I try to teach is that you come into your grip, and you can even literally just put something on the front of the riser to put your index finger on, so that it sets your wrist position this way. Okay, especially true if you're running a shorter axle-to-axle bow.
Right.
You know, just something little stick on the front of your riser, and that'll teach you. You know, you can try putting your finger on top of it, under it, over it, moving it around. But it's really a good way for people to key in and just really set their wrist position.
Right. Here's a question I'll take. Erdl Tappen, I apologize there if I butchered that. When is the Reckoning available in Europe? I would say any day. We've been shipping Reckonings like mad the last several weeks. And you should be seeing that any day. So I would hit up your dealer there, ask them. They should be able to talk to their distributor and see see when the ETA on that is, definitely. Hey, it's from Shelly Harper. You probably know Shelly. She's on Team Bowtech.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, are you going to try for the USA Archery 3D team?
I tell you what, you tell World Archery the moment I can shoot my 3D bow in a 3D event, I'll shoot their event.
There you go. Good answer.
I'll be in Alaska moose hunting.
You can't beat that. Again, you know, you're out there shooting real things other than targets.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating that World Archery, you know, they come in and start a 3D event, but then they don't try to mimic the existing 3D rules, you know. So they got to go out and create this whole new 3D venue, new rules, new this, new that, instead of coming in and mimicking something like ASA so that we can have some cohesion in the industry. And so now when people call, you got to ask them 100 different questions on, you know, what the perfect 3D arrow is. So.
Right. Here's some great feedback from a guy, Sean McKenty. Are you going to make a longer Reckoning, 38 or 40? It's great feedback. I mean, that's the kind of thing we want to know. A lot of people out there, you know, shooting the Reckoning, they're liking it. And I've heard requests for a bow like that in 38 to 40. So we'll definitely make note of that because that's the stuff I want to hear.
Is that like a wink, wink?
Wink, wink, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's great. That's great information. So, you know, anytime we do these live events, guys, feed us these requests and questions like that, because that's good stuff. That's how we learn to, or how we gather information as far as what we.
Yeah, don't worry, Sean. We're pushing. We're trying.
Yeah. Especially you get a guy like this, he wants something bigger so he can shoot it. So.
It'd be nice just to get one in my draw length, let alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
For him, shooting this is like me shooting our Diamond Atomic, so it's pretty small.
Yeah, 40-inch Reckoning would be the bomb.
So Shelly's responding. The qualification is at London, and yes, you can shoot your 3D bow. And she spelled your Y-E-R. So
you can't shoot a lighted sight. You have to shoot 60 pounds. No, you can't. But yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be in Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska. Alaska takes it. So, well, brother, I appreciate you being here. I know you've been playing around in R&D there, tuning some bows and doing some adjustments. We bring Tim in all the time to do a little consultation on upcoming stuff and. The bows, we like to bounce everything off of them, so we've had a good opportunity. He was in the local area, so man, we had to jump on that opportunity as well. So
yeah, it's good to come up here every once in a while and just you know try to impose my will.
Yes, definitely. Everybody's like, "Oh, Tim's coming." No, I'm just kidding. No, I said we look forward to this. Is the perfect time here because we're in full board development, and this is when we like you to start looking at the bows. And you know, we've had Paige up here a couple weeks ago. She did an event and. We have Peter Leone from Sweden,
you know,
one of the big guys.
I know what I was going to hit on that.
That
last guy was one of the guys we're talking about. You know, he came back to Bowtech. You know, and I think, you know, Bowtech has got kind of a bad rap on the limbs. And I was just talking to, you know, one of the engineers in there about this. You know, these new bows, and he said they had one in the cycle tester that had 54,000 shots on it or something crazy like that. But he said I could have that one.
There you go.
He said it was well broke in.
You know, that one's tried and true.
So, I mean, I think the new limbs that, you know, that are on these new bows are just rock solid, and I hope that alleviates any concern. You know, if you're looking at trying Bowtech, you know, again, these bows are just unbelievable.
And we've been, you know, really Rain was the first year. Which the Rain 6 won Bow of the Year for Editor's Life or Editor's Choice for Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, and that was the first year we actually brought the bow or the limb manufacturing in house.
Yeah.
And that just is a good testament there to the quality. And same thing with Realms.
Sure.
If they're Reckoning now.
Yeah, you'll just if you just look and you understand the fundamentals of bow design and tunability and what can go wrong with a bow. before you go in and buy a bow,
Yep.
I don't think you'd ever buy anything but a Bowtech.
Right.
I mean, these things are just phenomenally well made.
And this is coming from a guy that can pretty much shoot anything out there. So
Yeah, I mean, I love to be associated with companies, with products that I firmly believe
Yep.
in. I don't do anything to tweak my bows. I don't have to do anything to tweak my bows, other than try to get my draw length. But
right.
But from it, I don't have to shim pockets. I don't have to shim this or that. None of these things are fundamentally very, very sound.
Right.
And I expound every time I get to a tournament how every time I pull the bow out of the case, it seems to be hitting right behind the pin, first shot, and that's just not very normal. When you take a bow apart, you put it in a case, the airlines beat the crap out of it, and you put it back together. That typically doesn't happen, and that's on a Fanatic. Okay, this Reckoning and Realm Series bows are way tougher and way stronger and way better designed. On the limb pocket side of things and the dependability side of things, and I just can't wait till we get these type of bows and some longer axle-to-axle target bows. I think the world's going to love them.
We got a good question here. Oh, actually, so do you know Jeremy Jarrett?
I do.
He says your hair is on point today.
It always is.
So here's a good question to end on, Tim. Let's look at here. So John Schechtman is asking, if you give every bow shooter one piece of advice they may not know, what would it be? That's a tough one.
One piece of
advice
that they may not know. Well, my biggest piece of advice, and it's kind of my own mantra, is simply, those who try nothing learn nothing. Okay, if you're not willing to try stuff, you're never going to learn. You're never going to know what could be better.
Right.
If you always think you're there, you're never going to get to the next level. And I don't know. There's so many aspects of the bow and arrow setup that I look at every aspect of equipment on my particular bows, and it's there for a reason. I have shot stuff that I didn't like. I have shot stuff that's failed me, whether it's a sight, an arrow rest, a stabilizer, an arrow. There's a reason for everything, and one of the things that irritates me is when I see products misrepresented by pro-level archers. That I see the end consumer, when he pays his hard-earned money for a bow or a sight or a rest, or he's not going to get the same thing that guy's shooting, and that really bugs me when I see that. And so, I mean, I just think you gotta be willing to educate yourself. You got to be willing to keep an open mind.
Sure.
Don't get stuck in a rut. There's always a better way, and you just got to keep digging and finding it. Compressing those high highs and low lows. And the big difference between a top level pro shooter and a good amateur shooter is the compression of the high highs and the low lows is just a little bit tighter.
Sure, that makes sense. That's great advice. While you guys are here, I do not want to forget to tell you, we are giving you an opportunity to win one of the new Reckonings for yourself. We're going to make it super, super easy. All you need to do is text the word DEADLOCK, DEADLOCK, to the phone number 64600. We're going to be announcing the winner from the ASA Classic in a few months. So we'll be out there. I hope to get out there. We can hook up with you, and we'll announce the winner. So it's a great opportunity if you have one or you don't have one yet, and you want, if you have one and you want another one, get in there. Make sure you enter to win that. It's a good opportunity to get one of the Reckonings in your hand, and be the most accurate archer you can be. I mean, that's,
if you don't, if you're in the market for a new bow, you definitely got to get on the list for one of these.
Oh,
it's phenomenal.
Get your local dealer. They are in stores now. Your local dealer should have them. If they don't have them, your local dealer, tell them to get them in. So you can try it, because they're shipping, they are selling.
They feel amazing when you shoot them too. They're just super dead. I mean, and I don't think that the Realm Series bows are any different, really.
Right.
I mean, they're in stock too, and they're just
heck yeah,
phenomenal hunting bows. And
get out there, try them all. The SS, the SR6, the Realm, the Realm X.
Yeah, even a Realm X is, for a person that's got. I've seen some guys shooting them at 29-inch draw length last year very well in IBO.
Right.
you know, it's a 33-inch axle-to-axle bow that is just extremely stable. You know, so for a guy that's at 20, 28 to 26, 27, 28, 29, that's a wheelhouse bow, you know, for them. So.
Right. Well, again, I appreciate you joining us. Guys, make sure you check back all week, every week, because we have all this cool Bowtech Live content coming to you. I'm going to give you another easy opportunity to know when we're going to go live. All you need to do is text the word "Go Live," GOLIVE, to the same number, 64600. You'll get a notification. I can't speak today, Tim. See, Tim. We'll call you Tim today. We'll send you a notification when we go live, and then that way you can hop in and ask all these cool questions, get some cool answers from Tim Gillingham, from the Outdoor Chef, from Jeremy Starks, Whitetail 101, Nate Zielinski, Randy Newberg. We have a bunch of experts in their field, so make sure you get in there, text that so you can get that notification. So again, I appreciate you joining us, brother.
Thanks, Todd.
I know you want to get back to playing around and then getting home to the family.
It's all work, right?
Yeah, it's all work. So at least we have fun at it. So
yeah, it's fun work.
thanks for joining us, guys. Until next time, have fun and shoot straight.